Hello, can you hear me? Perfect. Thank you for being here. Welcome to this session entitled Water, a Regional Public Good for Peace in West Africa. Today we have a session organized in two parts. The first part will have presentations from different partners to provide an overview of the challenges and also some of the solutions that are ongoing in West Africa on water cooperation. And this session is really aligned with the theme of this year of the World Water Week, Bridging Borders, Water for a Peaceful and Sustainable Future. We all know the challenges that are ongoing here in West Africa and all the ongoing efforts. And I think it's really a good way to discuss, also to see how we can bridge all the efforts that are ongoing. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Yogita Momusen. She is the Global Solutions Manager at the Water Global Practice at the World Bank. I'm also from the World Bank. My name is Yoni Shimura, and I'll be moderating this session together with my colleague, Clementine Stipp, who's our online moderator, who's listening to us. Yogita, please, the floor is yours. The mic should be.
Hello. Good morning. Welcome. Bienvenue for those in the room and online to Water, a Regional Public Good for Peace in West Africa. My name is Yogita Momusen. As Yo said, I'm the Global Solutions Manager. West Africa is very close to my heart, as I was a practice manager for West Africa prior to where I'm sitting in Global. And today we have, for the Water, Regional Public Good for Peace in West Africa, we have representatives from UNECE, WMO, UNCCD, other organizations such as the Burkina Faso Youth Parliament for Water, OMVS, country representatives from Senegal and the Netherlands, as well as many other partners. So we would like to thank CIWA, the Cooperation in International Waters in Africa, and its donors, which are supporting this cooperation and a lot of the work that we are doing to support our clients. So why West Africa, and why are we talking water cooperation in West Africa? First of all, West Africa has the highest combined water and demographic stress exacerbated by climate change and the fragile context. The population will grow by 75% by 2050 to more than 775 million people, and the demand for water will surge. Only 74% of the population has access to basic water supply, and only 32% to basic sanitation. Water is also key for agriculture, which accounts to 30 to 40% of national GDPs, and in some cases up to 80% of jobs. That's one of the highest measures, but still what it points to is the importance of water, for example, water and agriculture in the economy in West Africa. At the same time, water in West Africa is transboundary in nature, both transboundary and surface. West Africa has 28 transboundary basins covering 71% of its area, and 23 transboundary aquifers covering 52%. So water cooperation is not just a necessity, it's a shared responsibility. So today, we're going to bring together some of the champions of water cooperation, which cover many different aspects. So in this discussion, as I mentioned, we'll have champions from Senegal, the Netherlands. I mentioned some of the UN organizations and the civil society organizations, and also the Senegal River Basin Organization, OMVS. It really represents a model of regional cooperation. thanks to OMVS, member countries have developed shared infrastructure, such as dams and hydropower plants, that ensure the benefits of the Senegal River are equitably distributed. The session will be organized in two parts. First, consisting in short presentations to provide an overview of the challenges and ongoing efforts of cooperation in West Africa. And the second will be a panel session to discuss some future aspects of water cooperation. So I'm really looking forward to sharing and learning from all of you, and I will pass it back to Yo Nishimura for the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yogita, for welcoming all the participants. So as Yogita mentioned, the first part will have lightning presentations covering different aspects really of the ongoing efforts in West Africa, from drought, from UNCCD, then we'll pass to the hydroclimatic part and the floods and drought risk with WMO. And then Francesca Bernardini from UNECE will talk about the transboundary cooperation and the Water Convention. And also we'll have the OMVS, the Senegal River Development Organization. We have the pleasure to have the Deputy High Commissioner who present us the ongoing effort. Really, OMVS is a champion transboundary river cooperation. Then we have my colleague from the World Bank, Mariam, who present us the role of civil society organizations and like how we can bridge, like policy efforts and also like the voices of the civil society. And then after that, we have Jean who will talk about a very concrete example on, as you may have heard, the World Youth Parliament for Water, in this case, the chapter of Burkina Faso, and all the ongoing efforts on bringing together the youth and the really empowering youth and transforming this part to action. I'd like to invite to the podium Birgil Lamisana Diallo. She is from the UNCCD and will talk us about the drought and desertification, a daunting reality in West Africa. All presentations will be very quick, will be around 5 to 7 minutes, and really like the objective is to provide really different perspectives, and during the panel session we'll try to bring all these aspects together for the future. And Birgit is Chief Global Policy Advocacy and Regional Cooperation at the UNCCD. Please. And she has worked in lots of projects in the Sahel, in West Africa, the Great Green Wall Accelerator, as well as in the MENA region. Without further ado, Birgit, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and warm welcome. This light is a bit disturbing. I can't see you, but really warm welcome. And maybe this one, yeah. It's better. Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the World Water Week. And it's always a pleasure to talk to the water community and others. So I was asked to talk about drought and desertification. So I wanted to take you through some of the aspects. But the UNCCD, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, is a convention that addresses land degradation, desertification, and drought. And it is a convention. Sometimes we say it's a desertification convention, but really it is a convention that addresses the basis of our life. Because land that provides us with our food, our feed for our animals, the fibers from the clothes we are wearing, and also the roof and where we build where we live, because we live on land. Hence, when land is really degraded and it can no longer fulfill this basis of feeding and sustaining our life, it's become a big problem. And it's become really a big problem that triggers conflict, migration, death for people, for animals. And you see it that desertification sometimes and drought are really silent killers. Because sometimes when floods occur, everyone sees it. The image is so impactful. People move. They are moved. But when drought occurs, is when you see the death, when it's come to an extreme, that you see the changes and you see people moving to act. So I will really talk about how this is daunting, going through when are we talking about drought. We started with the meteorological effect, when, for example, you see that it's a decrease in water, rainfall, an increase of temperature. So moving along the spectrum, when it's limited, you can't feel it, till you feel it when you come across the ecological drought, where you have challenges on water use, on resources, and all the basis of our life. And this translates into the functions land play for us. Moving from being a carbon sequestration to a sink for greenhouse emissions. And so, sometimes you don't link this to the drought or to desertification or land degradation. But this is the reality. And unless we understand the three close interlinkages between our life on land and how our actions on land, it's really difficult to address sometimes the biodiversity we need or the climate change we want to mitigate. Drought didn't happen or didn't started to happen right now. It's really started, as you can see, all around the world. Mega droughts has happened. And in West Africa, because the focus today is not global, but in West Africa, you see that from the 18th, 19th, you have from the 17th up to the 18th, there had been mega drought happening in this region. And the recent year also show you that this has not faded. It's still increasing. The frequency is becoming very short, very increased. And as we are talking on West Africa, only in year 2022 to 2023, you can see drought happening, which has been declared in Mauritania, in Cape Verde, in Niger. And then you see that it's becoming more and more something which we sometimes feel, how can we do about it? What can we do really to change the situation? For example, the drought in the Sahel from the 1970s to the 18th, it's killed more than 100,000 people. You see families, particularly the nomadic group, who lost all their cheptels, their livelihood, and it's daunting, heartbreaking to see a head of family just ending his life because he no longer can help his family, can't feed his family, and he just prefers to die because of this situation. In a nutshell, you can also see the increase in the frequency of drought in some of the countries. In Mauritania, for example, you can see it in Ghana. No, Ghana is decreasing in Nigeria. So this is a kind of a nutshell picture from this region where you see that everything is red. Everything needs action, needs really awareness to see how can we address the situation. But Lake Chad is a telling story. Look how it used to be in 1963, and now the area in 2024. Passing through transboundary aspect of the lake to becoming more concentrated in one country. And if you are not aware, if you are not careful, for some of you who knows about the RLC, we will sometimes dream and say, Lake Chad used to be here, like what we are seeing now when we look into the RLC situation. Because that's the reality. It's going, it's shrinking, and if you are not careful, it's disappearing. So that's what drought does to the ecosystem, to the people, and to our life. Drought really impacts our dignity, because if we can't sustain our life, if we can't take care about our family, and if we have to end our life because of this situation, our dignity is impacted, our livelihood is impacted, and our life as well. This is pictures and down from Chad, where all the family has to rely on how to feed their family. The one you see children, this is a picture from Burkina Faso, where they have to dig in the river bank to find some water. And you see the crops and all these kind of things which sometimes disappeared because our cheptels, our crops dying or drying, standing without us being able to harvest. So this is the reality what drought can be. But situation is not always doomed like that. It can be reversed. And in this region, there is hope on restoring land, using some techniques, and regreening the Africa. And the Great Green Wall, which is an initiative, a Pan-African initiative covering West Africa, but also Eastern Africa, is just doing that, trying to restore, to bring life to the land, to the people, and to this region. Here, the example of what has been done in Mauritania and how you can use a nexus between solar energy, water, and restoration to bring life and at least be proactive in addressing drought in this situation. And I think that's the end of what I wanted to share with you, and thank you very much.
Indeed, drought challenges, we all see them. And being such a slow onset event, it's often very hard to kind of be proactive, but the damage and the effects are disastrous. Our next speaker is from WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, and he's joining online, Ramesh Tripathi. He is the Adaptation Fund Project Officer at the Hydrology and Water Resources Service Division at the WMO, and he has extensive experience on flood and drought risk management, following up on what Birgit just presented us. Ramesh, if you can hear us, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yo, and it's my pleasure that I'm joining this session and sharing my experience from West Africa. So I hope someone can bring up a couple of slides.
I think we have a technical issue, maybe. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. As mentioned by you, WMO has been implementing a lot of projects, and what I'm presenting is one of the successful transboundary projects, which is Volta flood and drought management, which has been implemented in the 6 countries of Volta basins: Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Mali, and Togo. Next slide, please. So this project, Volta Basin, is a transboundary project which is dealing with 2 extreme hazards, floods and drought, which has been creating a lot of impact in this region for many years. And mainly the overall goal of the project was to strengthen the national meteorological and hydrological services in terms of, having a large-scale transboundary early warning system, including other integrated and drought management practices. The early warning system was a way to monitor as well as to see the forecast for these 2 hazards, and then the eventual goal was to disseminate early warning information to other national services, civil protection, as well as population for any kind of anticipatory actions or response measure. It has been a tool that has brought many 6 countries together, meaning that these floods and drought are not only aligned to one particular region, but is transboundary in nature, meaning a heavy rainfall happening in the upstream country of Burkina Faso, but maybe the water goes to the Ghana, so Ghana might face the situation of flood. So having these two extreme events particularly impacting as a transboundary level, it was very important to bring countries together with sharing of data and information. Data meaning not only hydrometeorological data as well as social and structural data, which was very important to develop an impact-based flood and drought forecasting system. Next slide. Here, the system is being operationally available now, and different agencies have different credential. There are some agency which are data provider, and they are also the viewer of the early warning system. And on the other side, there are some agency that is only viewing the output of the products and basically using it in terms of their day-to-day services management as well as for day-to-day services and activities. This early warning system, as I mentioned, is transboundary in nature, and what we wanted to do in the project is to ensure that each of the country national database is connected to this early warning system, so that real-time data and information is visualized and then can be also used for modeling purposes, so that we have a good, accurate, and reliable impact-based forecast. So it is a concept where all the countries' national data and information was brought together. We have some example, maybe in the upcoming slide we can show you. But mainly this system, once it was developed or under development, multiple trainings were carried out with the country's stakeholders, especially from National Meteorological and Hydrological Services, as well as disaster management, who were trained, and even they contributed in terms of improving the accuracy of the model and the forecast by providing some timely feedback and verification. So this is very important system right now available for the 6 country, and it's being used on day-to-day monitoring of floods and drought. Next slide, please. Here are some of the graphics from the early warning system. This is based on My Davetra system developed by Italian Civil Protection, and basically all the products which we have developed in the project are visualized here. And one good thing of this system is that we can visualize multiple products at one time, and this is somewhat very useful for the countries, not only in terms of seeing what is happening for a flood, but also checking information related to drought, because Volta Basin has an area of 400,000 square kilometer. At one part of the region, there is a flooding situation, while other region is suffering from drought. So having an integrated early warning system was very important for the national agency to cooperate as well as to collaborate in terms of monitoring and providing warning services. The platform is also very useful to integrate some of the existing products or the projects related information, and we were able to bring some of the project information. For example, on the right top corner, you could see the project Fanfar, which was done by SMHI, Swedish Meteorological and Hydrological Institute. The products from them were also visualized together, and that is a kind of a supporting tool for the country's forecasters, that they have multiple product visualized at one time, and that could help them in better decision making as well as for generating warning services. Next slide. Here is the warning bulletin which was generated, and one thing which I wanted to share is basically that all the 6 countries come together with the regional entity Volta Basin Authority that opens up this warning bulletin, and then all the national hydrological and meteorological agency, they look into various products and different kind of outputs available in the system, and based on their experience, local condition, they provide their input to this warning bulletin. And once all the countries have provided input, then it is being shared with various other stakeholders for better decision making. Next slide. Here is an example. This is as I said, this is a transboundary early warning system. Basically, the project allowed to have this early warning system for the Volta Basin region. So in Burkina Faso, around 50% of the area comes under Volta Basin, but the remaining 50% are not part of Volta Basin. But together with this FANFA project, now we are trying to support Burkina Faso to ensure that this early warning system is covering entire Burkina Faso, mainly to also integrate local data and information that can improve the accuracy and even in terms of timely warning communication to various stakeholders. I have my last slide, please. This is mainly to share that data and information cooperation is very important in West Africa. As I highlighted that having real time national or local data will be very useful for timely as well as improving the accuracy of early warning system or for better decision making. So this is not only for communicating on flood and drought early warning, but also for water resource management, even for water utilities, dam operation, irrigation. So there are many other services which rely on different information coming from Hydromet agency, and we have two good examples. One is under the project. There was definitely a good case study in terms of sharing of information between different national agency in Ghana. We signed an MOU, and then basically now we have this soft initiative which is strengthening the meteorological observation, which might be supporting in terms of improving data and as well as sharing with global product like ECMWF. So data and information are very critical in terms of improving the capacity within the country in terms of monitoring of floods and droughts. So I close here and I give the floor back to you, Yo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. So Birgit presented us on the challenges and really on the impacts on the ground, the livelihoods of drought, and Ramesh presented us like really the technological advance we had over the past decades, and also you could see like that the data can help different countries because water flows across boundaries, as we know. But apart from the technology, we also need policy support. And for that, as the next speaker, I'd like to invite Francesca Bernardini from the UN Economic Commission for Europe. Pleased to have you here, Francesca, thank you. She is the Chief of Transboundary Cooperation at the UNEC, and she has more than 20 years of experience in supporting countries in implementing multilateral environmental agreements. And she'll talk us about the Water Convention in West Africa, where I know like it has really revamped and is really in a good momentum right now. Francesca, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yo, and I apologize for my bit rough voices. I haven't been singing blues all night, it's just I've been sick, unfortunately. I would have preferred I've been singing blues in the smoky blues bar. That's not the case. But Yogita made very well, since the beginning, the point of the importance of transboundary water cooperation, transboundary water in general in West Africa. I mean, the majority of water in the region are transboundary waters. I mean, this 90% of transboundary river, transboundary river cover now 90%, include 90% of all surface water resources in the region. 150 million people in the region live in transboundary basins, so depend on transboundary water for their access to water and sanitation, which represent about 60% of the population of the region. Yogita mentioned the importance of transboundary water for agriculture, but also energy production, the big energy production in the Niger, in the Senegal, and in the Volta River, and there's a huge potential for the further development of hydropower in the region. Fisheries, another, for instance, in Lake Chad, 30 million people depend on fishery and agriculture from the basin. And we also know that many of these basins have been fundamental for navigation in the past, and still the remaining part that remain navigable are very important for local economies. So these water are the lifeblood of West Africa. And therefore, I very much appreciate the focus on the region and on the topic today. Few words on the Water Convention. First of all, the Water Convention is a set of rules that help countries ensure that transboundary water are managed in a sustainable manner and peacefully. But it's also a political intergovernmental framework which in the UN, under the UN auspices, which allows member states to monitor progress on transboundary water cooperation and to advance transboundary cooperation. But it's not only member states, it's a platform that brings together countries and also technical and financial cooperation partners. And all the actors present today, WMO, UNCCD, the World Bank, are very important actors in the framework of the convention. And then beyond the set of rules of the convention itself, there's much more provided by the convention through policy guidance, technical tools, capacity building, sharing of experience, and also a number of projects on the ground to assist parties and non-parties in implementing the convention. As mentioned by Jo, and not surprisingly considering how important transboundary water are in the region and also the strong tradition of cooperation, the Water Convention process of globalization, so this opening of the convention beyond the UNEC region, which has historically been the starting region for the convention, has really had a huge development in West Africa. And in that respect, I think we have to thank Senegal, who was already mentioned as a champion, because they've been one of the first parties in the region, and their example and their leadership has really brought many other countries. So we have 7 parties in West Africa: Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Canada, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and Nigeria. And these represent the strongest economy in the region. I mean, we're talking about the biggest and most important countries. And what is also interesting is that there are not only those 7 parties, but there are several countries which have officially requested assistance to accede to the convention. So they have a very well advanced process of accession, and include Mauritania, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, Benin, and Niger. And also the 2 remaining ones, Mali and Liberia, are in the starting phase. So we will soon have all countries in the region being parties to the convention. And from my perspective, this is extremely interesting. And I would like to give a couple of examples of how this has been useful in the region acceding to the convention. Because it's very important to understand that we're not talking only about acceding to the instrument, but it's actually the implementation which is the most important dimension of it, and what can really make the difference. So one example is what has happened in the Senegal-Mauritanian aquifer basin, which is, as I was mentioning at the beginning, very much triggered by, and I would like to thank Nyoko personally for that, Senegal accession to the convention. Senegal, by preparing its national report on indicator 652, very clearly recognized that while cooperation on surface water was very advanced, really a model for the rest of the world, cooperation on groundwater was lagging behind. So they decided that this would be one of their main objectives in acceding to the convention, strengthening transboundary cooperation on groundwater. They became a party to the convention, and they included in the program of work of the convention the development of cooperation on the Senegal-Mauritanian aquifer basin, shared with Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Mauritania. And they brought together the country. They got assistance from the Secretariat of the Convention, the Geneva Water Hub, and the International Groundwater Assessment Center to have a process of dialogue that helped the 4 countries, together with 2 River Basin Organizations, define their priority, what's needed in the basin. And because of that political process led by accession, and also bringing the other country in the convention too, they were able to mobilize a lot of support by other parties, partners, including the World Bank, the Italian Cooperation Agency, and the EU. So that really shows how acceding to the convention, defining priority, can help advance cooperation. And this is happening also in several other parties in West Africa, which by acceding to the convention have started to develop a national implementation plan. So a process that helps countries analyze what their gaps are, what their capacity needs are, and clearly define an action plan for implementation. And this, for instance, is super helpful for the country, but it's also super helpful for the partner, because this process helps partner act on specific needs identified by the country, and therefore enter into a partnership with the countries that help the country implement the convention. And this is why I was stressing at the beginning this importance of the platform, of bringing together actors that can help a sustained process along a roadmap which is clearly defined. It's implementation of a legal instrument. So they are very specific. This implementation plan are very diverse because obviously they depend on the country, but also looking at institutional aspect of data. We heard a lot about the importance of data, monitoring, capacity needs, and also specific questions. So these are important roadmap for the country and for the partner. And again, to give an example of how this platform function of the convention, I would like to underline this event that we'll be organizing in October in Ljubljana, Slovenia, an event that will bring together new parties to the convention to present their needs to implement this instrument, and technical and cooperation partner and all parties to allow a mutual support in the implementation. And the 6 West African countries will be there presenting their needs. So I very much encourage all those actors which are active in West Africa, but also globally, to look at the platform of the convention, the framework of the convention, and this matchmaking event as an opportunity to engage with country and support transboundary cooperation. And this will happen back-to-back with the meeting of the party, which is the UN global event on transboundary water cooperation worldwide. So very relevant, especially for this year with the focus on water and peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Indeed, the Water Convention is a really powerful, important instrument, and really pleased to see the momentum in West Africa. And as you mentioned, the Senegal River Development Organization is one of the champions. And it's a nice segue to invite the Deputy High Commissioner of the OMVS next. As a reminder, so after this we'll have a panel session, so if you have questions you'll have the opportunity to ask them after listening to these different viewpoints. And this goes to the online participants as well. You can use the chat, and the online moderator, Clem and Erica, will take up the questions. So Mr. Mamadou Max Bangura is the Deputy High Commissioner of the Senegal River Development Organization, and he has tremendous experience in Guinea, covering lots of high-level positions, such as he's the former Minister of Planning and Promotion of the Private Sector, Inspector General, and he held other positions of the Ministry of Planning and Cooperation of Guinea. And he'll provide us an overview of the OMVS latest development. The presentation is in English, but he'll speak in French so that we can cover both languages. Deputy High Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Je m'excuse, je vais présenter en français. Vous allez voir en anglais, mais la présentation sera faite en français. Je vous tiens à remercier les organisateurs d'avoir invité l'OMVS à prendre part à ce panel pour parler de son expérience en tant qu'organisme de bassin transfrontalier en Afrique de l'Ouest. C'est comment? Ah, d'accord. OK. Donc, ma présentation sera axée sur 2 points. Les facteurs de durabilité de l'OMVS et les actions de promotion de la coopération. Pour le premier point, comme vous le voyez, le facteur clé de succès est l'engagement politique au plus haut niveau. Comme vous le constatez sur le slide, nous avons la conférence des chefs d'État et de gouvernement qui est tout à fait placée en haut. Il est suivi, c'est l'organe suprême de décision au niveau de l'organisation, suivi par le Conseil des ministres, qui est l'organe d'orientation. Pour mettre en œuvre cette nouvelle volonté politique et organiser le cadre de coopération entre États membres, il a fallu se doter d'un arsenal juridique cohérent, solide et consensuel, constitué de conventions comme la Convention sur le statut du fleuve Sénégal lui-même, suivi de la Convention sur le statut juridique des ouvrages communs, qui permet aux États membres d'avoir un patrimoine commun constitué d'infrastructures, tout en assurant la protection de l'environnement et une répartition des bénéfices sur une base équitable et transparente grâce au modèle élaboré à cet effet. Pour mettre en œuvre cette volonté politique et organiser le cadre de coopération entre États membres, il a fallu donc se doter de cet arsenal juridique dont j'ai parlé tantôt. Et cet arsenal juridique est complété par la charte des eaux du fleuve Sénégal, qui non seulement acte la répartition des eaux du Sénégal entre les multiples usages possibles, la navigation, l'énergie et l'agriculture, mais aussi place les bénéficiaires au cœur du dispositif de gestion et d'exploitation des ouvrages. Enfin, afin que cette coopération soit durable et puisse assurer une stabilité, voici quelques chiffres relatifs aux bénéfices tirés par les différents États membres grâce au travail de l'OMS. Je crois que je suis allé un peu plus. Voilà, je suis à ce niveau. Donc, dans le domaine de l'agriculture, nous avons actuellement 409 000 hectares comment dirais-je, 409 000 hectares de terres exploitables sur lesquelles il y a déjà 2000 en exploitation. Et il y a, dans le domaine de l'énergie, nous avons le productible annuel garanti actuellement qui est le 1700 gigawattheures. Dans le domaine de la navigation, les projets actuellement en cours de développement. Et dans le domaine de l'adduction d'eau, il y a Nouakchott qui tire 80% de ses ressources du barrage de Diama pour l'adduction d'eau de la ville de Nouakchott. Et Dakar tire 60% des ressources de son adduction d'eau du même barrage, plus d'autres grandes cités, grandes villes du bassin. Et dans le domaine de la santé, nous avons réparti 9 millions de moustiquaires imprégnés aux populations du bassin entre 2008 et 2019. Dans le domaine maintenant de la promotion de la coopération, l'OMVS s'est engagé depuis quelques années dans la promotion des bienfaits de la coopération transfrontalière comme facteur de paix et de stabilité dans le bassin partagé, notamment à travers les conventions des Nations Unies sur l'eau de 1992 à 1997 pour le plaidoyer d'adhésion des autres organismes de bassin transfrontaliers. Il y a aussi le plaidoyer pour la reconnaissance au niveau international du rôle des organismes de bassin transfrontaliers comme acteurs de sécurité, de paix et de développement durable. Ensuite, la promotion auprès des partenaires des mécanismes de financement innovants. Et enfin, aider les organismes de bassin transfrontaliers dans les montages institutionnels et juridiques. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bangoua.
Oui.
Merci. Thank you so much, Mr. Deputy High Commissioner, for giving us an example of how such a river basin organization can really promote shared prosperity and also like sustainable use of water resources along transboundary basins. So we spoke about the effects of droughts and like the lack of water, the floods, the importance of data, the importance of water cooperation at the policy level. But we started with the impacts on people, and now we start, I think it's a really important piece to join. So I'd like to invite my colleague Mariam, who's gonna tell us a little bit about the role of civil society organization and some examples of the World Bank engagement on water development and civil society organizations. Please, Mariam. Thank you.
Thank you, Yo. Good morning, everyone. It's a good pleasure to be here. So, okay, it's working. So this study on civil society organization in West Africa is actually part of a larger study of 20 years retrospective of the World Bank and CIWA engagement in transboundary water in the region that has confirmed, as presented also by the other presenters, the interdependence of limited water resource across the national boundaries of West Africa countries. Then the necessity to better coordinate among stakeholders, including CSOs. This is particularly to contribute building peace in the region. The chapter focusing on CSO made a diagnostic to provide a state of art on CSO in 7 countries presented here, which are part of Niger and Senegal River Basin in the West Africa. Based on this diagnostic, the study identifies some conditions prerequisite to strengthen CSO coordination in transboundary water management in the region. First of all, let's say the summary of this diagnostic in West Africa will be presented in 4 main findings, and I will carry on with this condition to strengthen coordination between CSOs and maybe present a way forward for the next step. First of all, the diagnostic made a state of art on CSO legal environment, starting by defining what is CSO for each of these countries, which was really challenging. But what we can mention here in terms of definition, common definition for all these countries is that CSO must be apolitical and a non-profit organization. The diagnostic also pointed out that for the legal environment, it's their sufficient legal environment for the majority of the country investigated globally. This legal environment is sufficient for the development of CSO, but its practical application could be hampered by bureaucratic burden and sometimes even government intervention. So it's necessary, except for some countries like Burkina or Senegal, it's really necessary to work to better develop a legal code when it's weak in some countries like Chad, or to create a successful enabling environment. CSO, it's good also, this study presented the scope of CSO in general, and it's mentioned that CSO can really have the capacity to reach out to, empower, represent and defend vulnerable and socially marginalized groups, and trigger social innovation. By contributing to manage grievances, avoid conflict, and address challenges and inequities in services provision delivery, they play a key role in building and maintaining peace among communities. They are even sometimes the only ones to have local network and entry points to communicate and organize local stakeholders. However, despite this thousands of CSO presented in the region, the study pointed 4,000 CSO in Niger, for instance, and more than 40,000 in Mali, and probably more in Burkina Faso. Majority are, however, informal. And actually, very few are specifically dedicated to the water sector. So civil society still remain at the margin of the water sector in Africa West. The most representative CSO in the region are usually organized as national and international NGO. And they rely almost entirely on funding from government and or international donors. So this gives them a limited financing autonomy. The study also highlights a weak ability among CSO to bid, budget, manage, execute, and evaluate projects. So a few of them have this capacity to have action at national and regional level. When there is a vertical integration, it's mostly downward from NGO to community-based association. So the study found numerous CBA, community-based association, mainly working in informal way. So despite their important role and interaction with legal communities, few have both capacity and regularized communication with NGO at national and regional level. This brings me to the last point of the diagnostic, which pointed out that regarding legitimacy of CSO in communicating community voice. The study highlights that NGO face challenges in building social capital and trust sometimes at local level. Therefore, the top-down and the bottom-up communication flow remain a big challenge to strengthen the global coordination effort that is required among CSOs. So what could be the most important condition for civil society network in the Africa West? First of all, it's important to better understand what community-based association need is in the regions. And this is pointed in the study as the greatest path success at a pilot stage. And secondly, it's really important to strengthen collaboration with regional institutions like OMVS or River Basin Association, Authority, and NGOs to improve this top-down and bottom-up communication. This is really a great condition to strengthen coordination effort among CSOs. So I would like to finish with a way forward. Why not starting this coordination effort with what is already existing at regional level? So the Youth Parliament for Africa, West Africa, which is part of a great network at global level, already do great things in Africa West region. So the next presentation will show you what Burkina Faso Youth Parliament is doing and how they are deeply involved in the transboundary water management. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Mariam, that's very insightful. It was very interesting to see also the communication mechanism that goes from the civil society up to the, or should be going up to the regional and national organizations. As Mariam introduced, I'm pleased to invite now Jean Damase Roamba from the Burkina Faso a youth parliament for water. He's the founder, one of the founder of this network, and he'll present us really about the role of the youth in fostering water cooperation in West Africa. Jean, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having me today for this important session. As I said, I will be talking about the role and contribution of youth to transboundary water management in West Africa with the case of the Burkina Faso Youth Parliament for Water. Sorry. Okay. As you already know, water is a public good, but it's facing complex challenges in West Africa. We can cite climate change, the population growth, the governance challenges that leads to competing uses of water resources, coordination challenges, and security issues. But youth stands as solution providers to water challenges. The World Youth Parliament for Water is making waves for youth inclusive global development. The World Youth Parliament for Water is in more than 50 countries with what we call regional and national chapters. In West Africa, the Burkina Faso Youth Parliament for Water, which has been established in 2021, the action are focused on advocacy, awareness raising, capacity building, sustainability, and governance. Talking about advocacy, we are working to enhance water and transboundary water governance and coordination efforts. The first activity we can note is our parliamentary session on water. That's a dialogue for accountability to promote control of water policies and to contribute to the drafting of water policies in Burkina Faso. At the regional scale, we held a regional session on transboundary basins in West Africa in last April. And at the international level, we are also participating to some activities and some discussion. For example, the United Nations, you can see here, the United Nations Conference in March 2023. We can also talk about the World Water Forum in Bali, in Dakar, the COP27 in Egypt, and the COP28 in Dubai as national delegates for climate negotiation, as also speakers at side events, and so on. As part of our awareness and capacity building activities, we are trying to raise awareness to change behavior and enable youth engagement to address water issues in their communities. As part of some projects, we have some couple of projects like the Blue Campaigns, which is ongoing, the establishment of integrated resources management cells in schools. We are also the launch of the Youth Parliamentarians for Water Engagement Program, and the Regional Panel on Citizen Advocacy Against Climate Change, Environment Degradation for Water Protection. Talking about sustainability and governance, we are leading decision-making processes to strengthen local water governance through the collaboration with local water agencies in water basin committees in Burkina Faso. And during our last regional session on transboundary water management, we launched a West African Youth Parliamentarians for Water Network to facilitate regional advocacy and collaboration between countries and to strengthen cross-border cooperation in the region waters basins. Our activities are supported by many partners, and we got two recognition in 2 years of existence. We got two recognition. The first one is the Youth and Water Award by the government of Burkina Faso. The second one is that our parliamentary session has been acknowledged as an innovation by the African Union as a youth innovation in climate resilience. That was in last September in Nairobi. Then what we are saying, water must finally become the level for peace it should be. We reiterate the collective commitment of youth to work towards promoting transboundary water cooperation, hydro and para-diplomacy. Young people remain a strong force for collaboration and a real partner in strengthening cross-border cooperation to promote peace. We encourage ongoing dialogue, knowledge sharing, and joint initiatives to address transboundary water challenges and promote inclusive peace and growth. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jan, for all these insights. Indeed, it's really impressive how the Youth Parliament for Water did really a bottom-up approach, joining voices, and really the challenge is also how to further institutionalize this. Now I'd like to invite all the speakers, like we passed to the panel, to come on the podium and sit around the table for some Q&A that you may have, and discussion on like what was presented so far. Yeah. Six. Birki, do you want to sit as well? Okay, sure. Perfect. Thank you. And to this panel, I'd like also to welcome two speakers, Martin Gischler. He is really a water champion from the Netherlands. He's the water advisor at the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he's been working on really promoting transboundary water cooperation in the Nile Basin, the Senegal Basin, the Niger Basin, and also like he, on behalf of the Netherlands government, leads the water policy dialogue at the World Bank, and also like Netherlands' contribution to different cooperation trust funds, such as the CIWA that Yogita mentioned, Cooperation International Waters for Africa, and is really one of the key representative that is trying to promote and shaping up new ways of cooperating. So Martin, thank you very much for being here. And he'll provide us really one of the most important country perspectives as well. And I'd like to invite also, and pleased to have Nyokor Ndour. Nyokor, bienvenue. He's the Director of Resource Management and Planning Department, what's called the DGPRE, the Ministry of Water and Sanitation of Senegal. So we talked a lot about the OMVS, the Senegal River, and we have the chance to hear the country's perspective on the Senegal River. Nyokor really held various positions at the Ministry of Water, but also he's been the focal point, for example, for the Water Convention, and also to the OMVS. So in this panel session, I'll just set the stage with few questions, but of course, like if you have questions, please raise your hands, and we'll be asking to the panelists. And really the objective is to bring what we've heard so far and think about a little bit on the next steps, like what's the future, like how can we really synergize it and really like make an exponential change on water development. Maybe I'll start with you, Francesca, if I may. Francesca from the UNEC. So you presented us really like the momentum that is gaining in West Africa on the Water Convention. What are the remaining kind of challenges, and what's the vision to scale that up? Like, how do you see, like, if you could imagine the future of the Water Convention really being implemented? You made examples on how countries are doing these national implementation plans. what's missing and how can, like, looking at the partners here, like, how can we really like scale up to remove those challenges?
Thank you. And indeed, there are many challenges. One that I see is that we've seen the big basins are covered by agreement, but there are many small basins in which there's no institutional platform for cooperation. There's no legal basis for cooperation. And Yogita made it very clearly at the beginning. We have a bit of a time bomb in the region. If we don't have a platform like we have in the Senegal and in the Gambia, also in the other basin, that might be a real risk for stability, for peace, and for development in the region. So that's certainly a priority that for me is one. Then obviously it's also mentioned, already been mentioned, and will be mentioned, the cooperation on groundwater is extremely strategic, lagging behind. That's something that should be focused on. And then the issue of capacity. I think also there we can elaborate data. We heard a lot about data, but also managing tool enforcement. There's a huge challenge of enforcement in the country, and that's certainly another dimension. And then financing, obviously, we know that. I see the accession to the convention really as an opportunity to deal with these challenges, because countries have taken the commitment to tackle those issues. They have the legal obligation to develop agreement, to establish monitoring, to develop planning tools. So that's really an opportunity that they have a roadmap. They are on certain path for transition. And for me, it's very important that we take advantage, that the country take advantage, that partner take advantage of this to accelerate process, because we don't have so much time. We're talking about capacity. We heard about youth. I think it would be also very important that the youth community leverage the convention, strengthen the capacity on the convention, understand what the convention means and the kind of rights it gives to CSO and how it can use and help country implementing the convention. So there are really a lot of opportunity in using this dynamic to put the region on a much more peaceful and secure path for the future. And cooperation of all actors around that, for me, that's what will make the difference. What has happened now is that all parties helping new parties, we have to really accelerate this process. We have to have all actors using this platform, this momentum to work with a country in the region, so to make sure that transboundary water are managed in a more sustainable manner for the future challenges.
Thank you, Francesca. Thank you for your insights. That leads to maybe Martin would like to have your view, hearing what Francesca said about like the importance really of water cooperation, both at of course, at the regional level, but also with international partners, and that includes other countries such as the Netherlands, which been really, like, we can see really like how much the effort of the Netherlands for the past decades in promoting water cooperation and promoting peace through water as well. When it comes to water resources management and cooperation, can you tell us a little bit of your experience on the importance such technical cooperation that the Netherlands is providing, and also how do you see this changing in the future?
Thank you. Yes, over the past decades, in particular last 20 years, we have collaborated a lot in West Africa on transboundary water cooperation. I mean, you mentioned technical cooperation, and we always like to separate the technical from the political. But basically, water is always political, so that separation is not so easy. So we work on the 3 I's, the information base, the institutions, and then the infrastructure. But I mean, for instance, the point about the Lake Chad Basin, over the past 20 years, Lake Chad has been relatively stable. Yeah, so those are the facts. But in the stories that we tell about Lake Chad, we often say, well, you know, climate change is happening, and before we know it, Lake Chad is gone. I mean, the reality is Lake Chad has been fairly stable. It's chronically variable, but so we have to be very careful about the lines between politics and technical, and it's almost impossible to separate the two. we've worked a lot with OMVS, and in that context of is it technical, is it political, we've worked actually a lot with the losers in the basin, in the delta, where water started to stagnate as a result of some of the infrastructure development, and as a result you got the TIFA, the reeds, and the malaria, etc. So again, technical cooperation often has political consequences as well. And I think also in that sense, transboundary cooperation has to function in a multi-level governance context. Transboundary water is done at the level of ministers and heads of state, but it has to translate to tangible changes for people on the ground. So, and that only works if also that vertical from the transboundary to the national to the subnational to the local works, and that is part state, but it's also the communities, and that's where the NGOs come in. And so these top-down, bottom-up processes, they have to meet somewhere, but in practice that often is difficult. Donors, I think, are a bit of a double-edged sword in that context, because, they can do good with financing, with support, with supporting exchanges, but they can also kill it by throwing too much money at it and by being too impatient. These are generational timescales, and we often think, well, okay, we put money in for 3 or 4 years, and then we want to see results, and that usually doesn't happen. I think trust is a really important thing in transboundary cooperation. We see the relative scarcity of water is increasing. It's increasing because of population growth. It's also increasing because of increasing variability as a result of climate change. And that puts extra pressure. And maybe an area where cooperation is easier rather than around quantity and allocations is around water quality. Because water quality, it's not a win-lose or how much of the pie does one party get and how much does another. Maybe that could help in getting into the flow of cooperation and into the dynamics of saying, yes, I agree. Yes, let's do this together.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, indeed, it's very interesting, like from the Netherlands perspective, hearing like also the risk of the donor's role, and it's something we need to think about moving forward on, like how to really like best cooperate. And so like I guess it's a good segue to get the viewpoint of one of the country from the region itself. It's Senegal. Nyokor, welcome again. I know you'll be responding in French, and Mariam will kindly help us summarizing for the audience. So Nyokor, Senegal hosted the World Water Forum, the previous one before Bali, and continues to play a key role both in peace building and also peace building through water in the region. So what's your vision and what's Senegal's vision on the role of water in peace building, especially in West Africa? Can you give us an insight on how you see it, and also like hearing what Martin shared?
Thank you, Yo. Good morning, everybody. I am afraid to waking up Shakespeare, but I prefer to speak in French. Apologize. Merci, merci beaucoup.
Pas de souci.
Yo. Donc, comme vous le savez, le Sénégal considère l'eau comme un bien essentiel, et un facteur de développement crucial, et pour renforcer la coopération régionale et promouvoir vraiment la stabilité et prévenir les conflits au niveau de la région en ce qui concerne les ressources en eau. Compte tenu de ce fait, le Sénégal, dans son rôle de prospective et mais comment dirais-je, le Sénégal dans le rôle de l'eau pour la paix est basé. À cet égard, la vision du Sénégal dans le rôle de l'eau pour la paix est basée sur le triptyque eau, paix, sécurité, et dans une perspective diplomatique qui vise à prévenir les conflits liés à l'eau en favorisant la coopération et la solidarité entre les pays, promouvoir la gestion durable des ressources en eau en prenant en compte les besoins des utilisateurs, mais également des écosystèmes, renforcer les relations régionales en encourageant le dialogue et la coopération, promouvoir la participation de tous les acteurs concernés, y compris les populations, et bâtir et renforcer la confiance entre les pays voilà, à travers la transparence, mais également le partage d'informations. Voilà un peu la vision.
Merci beaucoup, d'accord. Marianne, can you kindly summarize for the audience what?
This work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So the vision of and the role of Senegal in peace building is very essential, and as Senegal consider the water as an essential asset to prevent conflict related to water sharing. So the vision is built on the three pillars: water, peace, and security, to prevent conflict, promote sustainable management of this water, including population needs, ecosystem preservation, and all this contributing to reinforce the regional cooperation and strengthening and building peace and based on transparency.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Nyoko. And I find very interesting that like the words security or peace are so clearly mentioned underwater, right? And that's really tells us a lot about the situation in the region, but also like really the potential that we see as, you know, like the water community, but also like everyone can see it on the ground as well, of how water can really be a promoter for peace. And I think that that's a good segue to see, like, so we saw like water cooperation between the countries. We saw like Senegal's really effort to promote transboundary water cooperation, and one of the most important rivers or basins in Senegal is the Senegal River, shared by Senegal, Mali, Guinea, and Mauritania. I'd like to ask to the Deputy High Commissioner, you presented us the challenges that you see in the Senegal River, and you've heard the intervention of Senegal, of Nyokor. I'd like to ask you, so like what are really like, so as a peace promoter, what are the remaining challenges? How do you see like the role of OMBS going forward and this dialogue with the countries? And I know like you'll be intervening in French, and Francesca will help us with the translation. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Les défis en matière de la coopération autour de ressources en eau comme souterraines, ils sont nombreux. Les défis sont nombreux, mais bon, les plus persistants, je vais peut-être les énumérer, qui convient vraiment de combler très rapidement si on veut aller très en profondeur. Il y a le défi climatique qui interpelle les pays africains et qui nécessite un renforcement de capacité dans divers domaines. Le faible niveau de connaissance des ressources en eau souterraine, appelé à jouer un rôle essentiel dans le renforcement de la résilience climatique du fait de la diminution de la disponibilité des réseaux de surface, mais aussi d'être un moyen d'adaptation au changement climatique. Dans le basme, au niveau du basme, qui concerne la Gambie, la Guinée-Bissau, la Mauritanie et le Sénégal, la gestion est confiée aux deux organismes de bassin, c'est-à-dire l'OMVS et l'OMVG, qui sont actuellement dans un dialogue pour établir une coopération transfrontalière sur cette ressource en eau partagée. Et ces organismes bénéficient du soutien de Geneva Water House et du secrétariat de la Convention des Nations Unies sur l'eau, mais aussi de la Banque mondiale, de l'Union européenne et de l'UNESCO. Je crois que l'appui de tout ceci pourrait amener très rapidement à relever les défis qui sont quand même énormes. Et le défi majeur est vraiment la mauvaise connaissance ou bien oui, de ces ressources au niveau de tous les États. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
So the High Commissioner was mentioning that there are obviously several challenges. And among the most urgent, there's obviously the climate challenge, which requires strengthening of capacity and also strengthening the knowledge of water resources to be able to adapt to climate change. And in particular, this is important for groundwater resources. And he referred to the cooperation dialogue in the framework of the Senegal-Mauritanian Aquifer Basin, which is shared by Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Mauritania, in which also the two River Basin Organizations, OMVS and VG, play a very important role in supporting this dialogue. And that he also referred to the importance of partners supporting the dialogue, in particular the Geneva Water Hub, the Secretariat of the Water Convention, and as well as the World Bank, the EU, and UNESCO. And in the framework of this dialogue, one of the most important short-term needs is the strengthening of the knowledge of the groundwater resources in the basin to be able to manage them.
Thank you, Francesca. Thank you. So next segue, so we talked about politics, and Jean, you presented us the role of CSOs and the role of youth, right? And it has been a really difficult, journey for the Water Youth Parliament to participate in different COPs, different policy dialogue spaces, and you gained it very well over the last decades. And what else is missing? Like we talked about institutionalization. What are the challenges on youth engagement that is missing, and how can we bring up these voices from from the youth, but also on the ground from water user associations or water user groups or other civil society organizations?
Thank you so much, Yo. The challenges are still numerous. There are still numerous, but I will focus on 3 of them. The first one is the lack of information of how young people can really engage in the community. In Burkina Faso, 70% of the population is under the age of 35. That's a big challenge, but it's also an opportunity. But we need to train the youth to let them know about water resources, how they can engage in the community to find solution to the problem, to the problems. So we, as a solution to that difficulty, we launched what we called a young parliamentarian engagement program. That's a program to train via webinars and on-site activities, workshops, and so on, to train the youth. We have also what we call the citizen panels, which can help to connect the educated and the uneducated communities and try to help them implement activities on the ground. We talk also about the integrated resources management in schools, because what we are doing today, what we are building today, if the young people are not trained to take the lead, to follow the path, it will be difficult. Then we want a young student to learn about what is water, its importance in this context, and what they can really do. Now, the second challenge I can notice is you talk about our participation to some international events and so on, but the participation of youth is still limited. Because as a civil society organization, a young civil society organization, we don't have the capacity to follow those activities. We have to get support from NGOs, UN agencies, and so on. because as you know, the government don't have the capacity right now due to the security crisis to finance such activities. Then the participation at the national level is, we can say we get our place. We deem it, but at the international level, it's still issue, and I will relate it to interconnect it to the third challenge, that limited support from government and from NGOs and so on. Because when we started to implement a chapter in Burkina Faso, we made a consultation, national consultation on the contribution and the role of youth in the achievement of the Paris Agreement and the SDG 6. And we noticed that in all the strategies, national strategies and so on, youth is mentioned as a marginalized group alongside with women. But we no longer want to be considered beneficiaries of development action and so on. We want to be partners. We want to be in the decision table, to bring our views, to learn also from, yes, with all the humility, to learn from elders and to see how youth can really do. Donc that's our advocacy to help us, the UN agency, the NGOs and government, to let the youth take the place they have, and also to include youth when in preparing structural project, because sometimes they just invite youth. There are an activity, a conference, or a workshop, camp. Yes, it's good, but as a civil society organization, we want also to implement community-based projects to help the community to build the resilience. That's very important. But because sometimes when we come here, if we are not active in our country, when we will be back, they will say, you are doing nothing. Why? Then we need finance to implement youth-led projects in the community. Yes. Yeah. That's the three challenges I can talk about, and the solution we are trying to bring on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. Youth indeed, it's 77%. It's not minority. It's not marginalized. It's majority, right? So we need to really give that the power and empower them. Maybe we are almost at the end of the session, but we have maybe time for 1 or 2 questions from the floor, if there is anyone. Questions? Daniel? I can pass it.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask you about your points about the lecture. It was very, very intriguing for me, because what we hear is from the 1960s, more than 90% of the lecture has been drying, and it continues. Of course, over the 1990s, it became a little bit more stable with some fluctuation. But the impacts on Boko Haram, the creation of this extremism, it is still there. They are low-hanging fruit for extremism. So I thought, I'm a bit concerned that you are overly optimistic. I wanted to challenge you. Can you tell us more about your source of optimism? Thank you.
Thank you. Martin, do you want to react? Maybe in 1 minute. That's a new challenge as well.
No, I mean, I think I was talking about technical and political, and I'm not optimistic about the political issues around Lake Chad. I think the root causes of that are much, much deeper than the fluctuations of the lake level. They are much deeper. But I think it is also, to some extent, comfortable to say, oh no, it's climate change that's doing it, and for the rest everything is fine. I think there are deeper causes of marginalization. Lake Chad is the periphery of 4 countries. Governments are more oriented towards other parts of the countries where they want to promote development. So it's a bit of a forgotten area where the state is largely absent, has always been absent. And in the 60s, or late 60s, 70s, up to mid-80s, the lake declined from 100%, say, to about 10%. And it rebounded in the next decade to about 60%, and it has been fairly stable at that level for the last 25 years.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Otherwise, we'll that and then we wrap up. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you very much. I lived for years in Burkina Faso and Benin. I'm pleased to see you here. You mentioned just before that the lack of data on underground water is a priority or is a big issue. I know that a huge study has been conducted in Burkina Faso regarding this topic, but now with the security situation and the insecurity crisis, the areas where this study has been conducted are not accessible anymore. So I would like to know, in terms of priority now, how do you deal with this situation, and how that kind of studies can be implemented? Thank you.
It's the guy from the organization online that mentioned it.
For whom you'd like? Was the question? John, you want to give a go, or?
I think it's the sir from the meteorological organization that talked about the study.
He's not here.
Yes, not here. What we are saying is reality. Absolutely, the situation is it's not easy. There are many internally displaced persons, and many cities are not accessible right now. But the government, we are not in the government, we are in the civil society, but the government is working with other stakeholders to continue those studies and to find solutions, because the water scarcity is a reality. Yes, depression to water infrastructure due to the displacement of persons are making us work more deeply on the groundwater resources to see how it can help us contain depression of water. But unfortunately, I'm not, don't have much information about it. Yeah.
Mariam as well, she's happy to talk. As we run out of time, I'd like to maybe take the occasion to, to ask Birgit to just provide final comments. Also because we talked about, can I have the mic? Like the importance of course, water cooperation, but also like the difficulties at the policy level, especially on floods, droughts, but also really to be proactive on water resources management, and if it's transboundary, more so. So Birgit, as CCD, we were talking about a lot about this difficulty in being proactive, especially on drought, but water resources management in general. Can you give us 1 minute of your sense, and also just wrap up the session? And thank you to everyone for the participation.
Yeah. Thank you, and sorry that I'll stay here, but I just want to say that listening to all the presentation and also the panelists, you see that it's a interlinkages between everything, from and the contribution also from everyone, from the community level, the youth, the women. The fact that we need governance at the river basin level, with the Niger River Basin, Volta river authorities, the OMVS, all these kind of governance at even from the local level to the regional level to the global level, with the Convention of Water, we all need to put our hands, because we all has a role to play, and to listen to each other and see how we can bring it. Sometimes you see that we are more in a reactive way when it's come to a drought or flood or any event, but I think we have some tools, we have some data, we have also a governance and policies, which when we enforce them, then we can be more kind of having a proactive approach to our drought, to our flood, to our crises which impact the transboundary way of cooperating, because transboundary waters can be a very good tool for peace. But if it's not well managed, it's become really a big, harmful weapon for conflict and for war. So let us cooperate, because transboundary is in a way a cooperation, and let us maybe try to see from all the different levels, how can we bring what we have to at least build the peace we want for the region along the flowing water, because water flows, so it can flow with peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think there is no need for other words to wrap up the session. I'd like to thank all the speakers, all the panelists, and all the participants online and on site. And of course, we will continue this discussion bilaterally, multilaterally, and at all levels, as Birgit said. And thank you so much again. Merci beaucoup.
Should be. Oh.